Kadosh Boker Or Masechet Sotah Daf Mem Zayin Amud Aleph 47a1. We are talking about over here, if you remember the story of Elisha, that it says Vatetzena shtayim dubim min hayar v'tivkena mehem 42 yeladim, which means that there were two bears that came out of the forest and they took 42 children. Why? Because they started laughing, right, at Elisha. So therefore, since they were laughing at Elisha Navi, and that was only because he was not accompanied, because if he would have been accompanied, he would have had Leviyah, so then nothing would have happened. So he says, Rav and Shmuel, one of them says it's a nes, one miracle happened, and one of them says it was nes v'toch nes, two miracles. According to the Mandamar, the nes echad happened, Ya'ar hava, v'dibim lo havu. He says the Ya'ar was already there, but there was no such thing as bears in there. But because of the curse of Elisha, all of a sudden, right, bears appeared. Meaning everybody knew that there was a forest there. There was a forest there for a very long time, but there was never bears. All of a sudden, bears came out of the forest. They're like, hey, what's going on over here? So they knew already, right, what went on. That it was because of the curse of Elisha Navi. Yeah, the second one says, right, Mandamar nes v'tech nes, lo yar hava v'lo dubim avu. There was never a forest there, and there was never bears there either. Which means that's why it was a nes v'toch nes. All of a sudden, he cursed them. All of a sudden, boom, there's a forest right beside them, and all of a sudden bears are coming out of the forest, and the bears come and they take away, they come and they kill 42 children. So ask the Gemara, it says, one second, why can't there be that there was bears and there was no forests? Right? Which means, right, what does the Ya'ar come and make that ki'ilu that all of a sudden now there's going to be more of a miracle? So he says, the bi'ite, which means bears without a forest, right, are afraid. Meaning only because there's a forest, bears are able to come and do whatever they want. But if there's no forest, the bears are actually afraid. Okay? Amar Rabbi Chanina. So says Rabbi Chanina, because of the 42 korbanot that Balak Melech Moav brought, right, in order there should be a klala on Am Yisrael, that's why there were 42 children that were taken away. Which means that 42 children lost their lives later on. Yeah, 42, right? Why? He comes and he says, because of the 42 korbanot, right, the Balak Melech Moav came and he brought. Okay? So says the Gemara, you know what we're talking about, because there he said, Shiva Mizbechot, Shiva Parim, Shiva Elim. He kept on saying, you need 7 Mizbechot for 7 and 7. So therefore he comes and he says it was like and he did that how many times? So it was 7 times 6. It was 42 times. So basically, no. So because of the korbanot that Balak brought, so because of that, there were 42 children that were killed. Why Davka Yeladim? Probably because the Yeladim is the entire concept of the future of Am Yisrael. So the korbanot that he brought to curse Am Yisrael, it actually took into effect. But obviously they had to do something wrong. What did they do wrong? They went against Elisha Navi. So his curse plus the korbanot that Balak brought in order there should be the curses, so basically everything came together. So ask the Gemara, any is it so? V'amar Rav Yudah Rav says Rav Yudah Rav lo lames sokodav Torah mitzvot v'av bishelo lishma shemitot shelo lishma balishma. So he says a person should always learn Torah mitzvot shelo lishma even, because if you learn it shelo lishma not for the sake of the Torah mitzvot, later on it will become lishma. So he says, because of the 42 korbanot that Balak Melech Moav brought, he had root coming from these 42 korbanot. That also Shlomo Melech came. That it's written, Shlomo. He says, Yosef ben Choni, Ruth, bito shel Eglon beno shel Balak hayta. She was the daughter of Eglon, the son of Balak hayta. So you see from here that he already had a reward, as if to say. The reward is having Ruth and Shlomo Melech, not having a reward that 42 Jewish children were killed later on. So says the Gemara, you're right. He had a reward, right, of what he did. The reward, what he did is that he had Ruth, but what was his kavanah? His kavanah is he wanted to curse him out. He wanted something bad to happen. So it did actually happen. So the people of the city told Elisha, he said, What's the good of the city? Amar bi Hanin chen makom al yoshevav. Which means that the people of the city, they only see the good things of the city. They don't see the negative things of the city. I mean, you come and you speak to somebody of Miami, and they're not going to tell you, listen, you know what, it's boiling hot, and it's mamash like the esh of Ginam during the summer, and all of a sudden there's ruach se'arot of hurricanes, like I don't know what. They always speak about the good of the city. You go to Venezuela, I'll never forget this, and you should hear how they speak about it. The gasoline was free. I remember where gasoline was $1. I remember, mamash, you used to go to the gas tank, you used to drive your car, mamash, like it was free. You know what that is? Free. You fill up an entire tank and free gas. You know what that is? You understand? Or they come and they speak to you about how everything's so cheap and that cleaning ladies you could have for, it's like $100 a month and they sleep in your house and they work for you. Like, I don't know. You come and you hear them, you're like thinking like, you know, this place is Gan Eden. And you look at yourself, you're saying, look at this place. It's called life. Right? You know, what's but that's chen. That's what it says. Chen makom al yoshevav. Wherever you live, people like it. Right? When people come and they speak about France, you think that they lived in I don't know what. When they start moving away from it, all of a sudden they start saying the real truth about where it is. Right? But really, behemet, you're going to tell me that that's what, you understand? That's the way it is. That's the nature of human beings. Fine. So he says like this, Chen makom al yoshevav. So the grace of the place is going to be on the people of the city, which means people always love where they come from. Doesn't matter where they come from, they always love it. Okay? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rabbi Yochanan, Shlosha chinoten. There are 3 types of grace. Chen makom al yoshvav, chen isha al bala, vechen mekach al mikcho. People, they love where they came from, meaning the city where they grew up from. People will love, a husband will love his wife, right? Which means that even if she's going to be ugly or whatever it is, she's going to find favor in the eyes of her husband, right? And the same thing with a chefetz, the same thing of something that you buy, right? Always somebody, you know, the Gemara actually says, Le'olam tia da'adam dato me'urevet im briot. And that's why you always say, kalana v'chasuda. So somebody once said, well, Rabbi, she's mechoeret bioter. She's so ugly. How are you going to say that she's a nice looking woman, right? So that's Bet Shammai. Bet Shammai says, kala kemot shei. Listen, the kala the way that she is, that's what you're going to say. But Bet Hillel says, no, kalana v'chasuda. She's very nice looking. This, that. Well, why? Because obviously, if a person is getting married to someone, it means that she found favor in his eyes, right? So in his eyes, she's beautiful, right? It could be she's the ugliest thing in the world, but that's just, the way that it is. So chen makom al yoshvav, chen ish al bala, chen mekach al micho. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in the Braita, shlosha cholain chala Elisha. There were 3 different sicknesses, right? That Elisha got sick throughout his lifetimes. One was because he sent the dubim against the tinokot. Meaning the fact that he went and he sent the dubim and there were 42 kids or whatever it is, lads that were killed. So because of that, he actually got sick. One of them because he went and he pushed away Gehazi with his 2 hands, right? Because he accepted the matanot from Naaman, Ser Tzvaram. And one, Shemet, on the last one, which he actually got sick and he died from it. Right? So it says, so that was the 3rd one. Okay, so he's going to be sick, right, in different times. Here it says that even though the Ne'anim didn't do properly, right, he was punished because he actually mamash killed them, right? Mamash, like he basically killed them on the spot. You understand? So okay, fine, they didn't act properly, but don't kill them, right? Punish them, whatever it is, but not the second you kill them, that's it. Imagine the curse of the Navi, boom, 2 bears come out, mamash, he was more Moroccan than Moroccan. Yeah, he comes, 2 seconds, he curses, and that's it. 42 people were killed. Yeah, it's powerful. Right? Tanu Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita. Le'olam tesmol docha, yamim mekarevet. Right? The left hand should always push away, but the right hand should always bring near. Not like Elisha that he pushed them away too much, and not like Yoshua ben Perachia he pushed off one of his talmidim, right, with his 2 hands. Everyone knows this story, yeah? Fine. He says like this. He says, not like Elisha that he pushed away Gehazi, right, with his 2 hands when he went and he cursed him that he's going to be a mitzorah for the rest of his life, and not like Yoshua ben Berachia that he pushed off one of his talmidim bishte yadav. Yeah, the Gemara is going to explain it later on. And there's chesronot hashas here. Yeah, I told you. Agaot here actually say, not like Yoshua ben Perachia, shedechafo lecha mitalmidav is in brackets. He says, liyeshua notzri bishte yadav. Meaning, we have an argument out, one of his students. Chesronot hashas had, that was censored. It wasn't one of his students. It was Yeshua Notzri. So JC, the Christian, student. That was his student. No, but it doesn't say the name of the student. Here it actually says Yeshua Notzri. Then afterwards it says, De'amar mor Yeshu kishef v'isit, which means later on, he's going to bring down about one of the students, it's Yeshu. So that's what it says in the Chesronot Hashas.
So we're going to find out what the whole argument is.
Well, let's see. There's a few different Gemarot. This is one of them. Right? Mem Zayin. Sotah. Yeah?
Very cool. It's part of the history.
100%. The way to remember Mamzer. Mem Zayin. Mamzer. That's how you remember. Right? Mamzer. You just add a mem and then a resh at the end. Mamzer. No, that was Mem Gimel. That's in Sanhedrin. In Sanhedrin, it's Mamzer Gadol and Kuf Zayin over there. Right? Mamzer Gadol. Al Yeshu also. The Gemara there speaks about it. There, in Mem Gimel. Mamzer Gadol. Yeah? Fine. So says the Gemara, Elisha Maihi. What was the story of Elisha? Dichtiv, as it says in the Pasuk, Yomer Naaman, Hoil Kach Kikarim, come and take this money. Uchtiv, Yomer Elav. So Elisha comes and he tells Gehazi, Lo libi alach, right? Kasher afach ish me'al mekafto likratecha. Ha'et lakach v'deketz v'lakach v'yedim zetim v'krobim v'zom v'kav v'yedim. This is what I'm going to take all these things. So says the Gemara, Umisha kil kulahai. What Gehazi took from Naaman, these things, he took silver, clothing, olives, vineyards, tzon, bakara, vadim, shvachot. He took all these things. Kesef, he only took money and clothing. So Amar Rabbi Yitzchak says Rabbi Yitzchak, be'ota shah היה Elisha kosek b'shmona shatzim. Elisha was learning shmona shatzim. Amar lo, he told Gehazi, Rasha, higia letol sechar. Why, you're taking all the reward that you want in this world? Meaning you're taking everything in this world? He says shmona shatzim, what you just learned right now. So he came and he told him, Tzarat Naaman tizbak b'cha u'zarecha le'olam. Elisha cursed him, and he said that Tzarat of Naaman will cling to you and to your children forever. It's a powerful, you understand? I mean, the rabbi came and he gave it to him on the head. Remember, Elisha was a Navi, but he was his rabbi. And he came and he destroyed him. Yeah, think about it. He cursed him with Tzarat for the rest of his life. Him and his children. Yeah, b'cha u'zarecha le'olam. Yeah? So he says, that's how he cursed him. He says, because he basically threw him out, because that's it. He can never come into Bnei Yisrael, right? Because basically he can't come in the Choma of Eretz Yisrael. So therefore it's considered that Elisha came and he pushed him with Shtei Yadav. Because if he would have just was mekalel oto b'mashu acher, he would have maybe done teshuvah and come back to him, right? But the fact that he came, and also the another thing is that he cursed also his children. So if he didn't curse the children, okay, so maybe their father did something wrong, but they would have come back. But the fact that they did it in such a way, so therefore it's mamash, pushed them away. Okay? So there's 4 people that they were mitzoreim. These are Gehazi and his 3 children. So it comes out that the curse of Elisha actually was fulfilled. He cursed them, that's it. Him and his 3 children were mitzoreim. Okay, Elisha the Masechet, so he came to my Masechet, where did he go? He went to try to make him do teshuvah. Velo chazar, but he didn't do teshuvah. Amar lo, says Elisha, chazor b'cha, do chazara. Amar lo, he told him, kach v'kulam micha, kol shechadav yachti et harabim, v'sekim yidol lo teshuvah. He says, no, I was choteh, and I was machti et harabim. Right? Why was he machti et harabim? The Gemara is going to explain. That means basically he went and he said, the fact that he went and he was, not only did he sin himself, if he would have sinned himself, he could have done teshuvah. But the fact that he was also machti et harabim, that's why he's not able to do teshuvah. Yeah. So Mayavad, what did he do? Some people say he had like a magnet that he put on the chatat yiravam, which means in the roof, right on top of the eglez zahav that Yeravam did for avodah zarah. Ve'mido ben shamayim la'aretz, and because of the magnets, it put the galim between the shamayim va'aretz, so it looked ki'ilu, right? You know, so the chokhmah. He put a magnet in the ceiling. Yerovam ben Nevat came and he put 2 eglei zahav, 2 golden calves to be avodah zarah. Because of the magnet, it was like flying. It was like in the air. It was ben shamayim va'aretz. So people come and thought that it was because of that these are real gods. Look, these are gods. But really, it was a trick. He did it because of magnets that were on the ceiling. Now, obviously, he had to do it in a certain way that it didn't completely just go to the ceiling, right? That means it was like a type of, I guess, a force that it was like half. I don't know if he put like a type of a magnet that so it was floating in the air basically. Yeah, and some people say Shem chakak la'apuma. He put the Shem mefurash on the mouth of Chatat Yiravam, and therefore used to come and say, Anochi Hashem Elokecha velo yeh lecha. Meaning the Egels were saying, Anochi Hashem Elokecha ve'anochi velo yeh lecha. So therefore, Kilu, they were talking, because he went and he put the Shem mefurash on them. Right? The Ika de'amni, so that's the second opinion. Shem mefurash. Name of Hashem. But the name of Hashem, you could do anything. Yeshu, by the way, he took the name of Hashem, he was able to fly. Everybody agrees with that, by the way.
That's how you walk on water.
Right? They walked on water, flying, he was able to do everything. Yeah. Right? When a person has the Shem HaMefurash, they're able to do anything. Yeah. Yeah, whatever. So he says like the Vika Damni, and some people say Rabbanan Dacha Mikame, right? That he was Doche the Talmidim from Elisha, and he didn't want anybody else to come into Elisha. Tichtiv, as it says in the Pasuk, Vayomru b'nei Nevi'im el Elisha, which means that until now it wasn't tsar. So it's mashma that until that time Gehazi used to come and he used to stop people from coming inside. Meaning Gehazi didn't want to let other people come in. He wanted everything for himself. So the fact that he wanted everything for himself, he didn't want everybody else to come inside the shiur. So therefore he was machti et Rabim. Yeah, so those are three different explanations why he was machti et Rabim. And since he was machti et Rabim, it was not going to help Teshuvah. That's what he went and he told his rabbi. Yeah. Now, says the Gemara, what was Rabbi Yoshua ben Perachia Maihi? When Yanai Melech was coming and killing the rabbis, right? This is a story in Kiddushin. Yanai Melech was a Kohen, right? He wanted to become the Kohen Gadol. So one of the Chachamim that was there said, right, that there was a Safek, maybe he wasn't a Kohen Bichlal. So after they went and they said that was not true, Yanai came and he wanted to go against the rabbis. So what did he do? He started killing out all the rabbis. Yeah? Shimon ben Shatach, amtinu achte. So Shimon ben Shatach, the wife, hid him. Yeah? Why? Because the wife, right, which was basically the sister, right, of Shimon ben Shatach. So Yanai Melech was married to the sister of Shimon ben Shatach. Okay? That means basically Shimon ben Shatach's sister was a queen. Okay, so the sister, exactly, was the queen. The queen is the wife of the king. Yeah. So therefore, what happened? So therefore, he went and she hid her brother. Rabbi Yoshua ben Perachia azal arak. He ran away to Alexandria Shemitzayim. Ki ava shlama. Afterwards, when there was peace, shalach le Shimon ben Shatach. Shimon ben Shatach came and he sent to Rabbi Yoshua ben Perachia, Mini Yerushalayim ira kol shlach Alexandria Shemiya achoti. Bali sharui betochech. Right? Vani yoshevet shomima. So he comes and he sent him and he told him, Yerushalayim ira kodesh is to you for Alexandria Mitzayim. My sister, right? My husband is within you, and I'm by myself. So therefore, when Rabbi Yoshua ben Perachia accepted this, the Mar Shemam, he says, there's shalom there. Meaning he was able to understand from the chokhmah. He says, that means now there's peace in Israel. I can go back. Yeah. So he comes and he says, because he was mechuneh Baali, because he was the Nasi of the Sanhedrin. Okay. So he says, Kiata iklalu shpiza. So when he went, he was by this inn. Tam kamayu bikara Shapir, the Balat Achsanya. She came and she gave him a lot of kavod. Avdila yikara tuva. She did a lot of kavod for him. Yativ kamishtakbach. So Yoshua came and he said, wow, kama naach sanyazu. Look how good is this inn. So what happened? Amale achami talmidav. So again, here you're changing achami talmidav to Yeshu. So one of his students came and he told him, Rabbi, and now true thought. He says, Rabbi, why are you saying that this is such a good inn? Well, look, her eyes are crooked. Like, basically he started looking at her physical appearance, not at, how they're serving them, but rather the physical appearance. Amarle, right, he told him, Rasha, v'kacha ta'osek. He says, what, this is what you're looking at? I don't understand, what are you doing? Yeah, you're looking at, at her eyes, at her this, who's talking about that? He says, Rasha. He went and he put him in Nidui. Right? He put him in Nidui. Took out shofarot and he put him in nidui. So every day he used to come and he tried doing teshuvah. He didn't accept him. One day he was doing kriyat shema. He came in front of him. He wanted to accept him. So he told him, wait a minute. But he thought that he was pushing him away again. Meaning, sometimes you come and you say like this, or like, and he thought that basically, like this. So he thought it was basically telling him like, get out of here. And really was telling him, Shuai, what happened? Azal zakif lebinta placha. He went, right, and he put an avodah zarah, and he did avodah zarah. Amarle, he told him, chazor b'cha, do tshuva. Amarle, he said, kach b'gavulani mimecha, kol ha'chodeh b'chadeh. No, he says, I can't. The Amar more says, kishef. Again, this is a total mean. Was kishef ve'esiv v'diach v'tidisel. This one he did sorcery. He was misleading other people to sin, and he took people off the path. V'chtiyat Yisrael. So you see from here, this is all what the person did. Tani will into the right. Yetzer tinok v'isha esmol dochav yamim kebet. Yetzer of the tashmish, right, of having relations. Tinok, children, and a woman, right? It should always be smol dochav yamim karevet, which means that if you're going to push it away too much, you're not going to have children, right? You're not going to have the right. But if you're going to bring it too close, right, even better, you're going to come to the isul. So therefore, it always has to be the concept of these things. Isha v'tinok datam kala. So the same thing. If you're going to get upset at them or whatever it is, so therefore you always have to be careful, right, with these three things. Okay, Mishnah. Mishnah says, right, we're talking about nimtza haoreg ad shelo nerfa egla. What happens if they found the murderer before they did egla rufa? Remember, we're talking about the perek of egla rufa. So what happened was that they found somebody murdered somebody, but they found the murderer. So now we know that it wasn't the bedin. We found the murderer. So they didn't do the egla rufa yet. So this animal, instead of actually doing the egla rufa, but they already designated animal, so it has to go out, and it's going to be mutar bana, which means that even though it was going to be designated for the egla rufa, they're going to come and they're going to take it to graze, right? But once they already did the egla rufa, they have to bury it in its place, which means wherever they cut off its head, that's where they're going to bury it. They can't bring it they can't do anything else with it, but they come and they do this, they bury it in its place. Because now it's a sul bana, okay? In order that people shouldn't benefit from the nevela, right? Shal safek bata mitchilata, because this only came as a doubt. Meaning the entire concept of egla rufa was we don't know who killed him, but if we know who killed him, right? Exactly, it's not a bedin, but they do it as a kapara, right? So he says over here,
they have negligence. They said
so therefore it actually did its submission, because since at the end of the day, like an egla rufa, it did do it, so that's it. However, though, if they did the egla rufa and then afterwards they found the murderer, they're still going to kill him in the bedin, which means that even though they brought the egla rufa as an atonement, but they still killed the guy. Meaning nobody should think that, listen, that they did the egla rufa, so now they're not going to kill the murderer because kilu everyone was atoned.
They do the egla rufa and they kill the guy.
And they kill the guy. Okay, which makes sense. Okay, next. Ed echad omer raiti ta'oreg, ve'ed echad omer lo raiti. Imagine one witness comes and he says, I saw the murderer. And one of them says he didn't see it. Or a woman that says, Isha omered raiti, ve'isha omered lo raiti. Hayor they would still do the egla rufa. Because since you've got contradictory testimony, you do the egla rufa. One witness says, Omer raiti, and two people say they didn't see, they would do the egla rufa. Right? Because here, basically, the two go against the one. But two that say that they saw the murderer, and one says he didn't see, right? They wouldn't do it. Because one against two is nothing. And therefore, that's it. But once there was so many people killing, they didn't do the egla rufa anymore. There were too many murders. So once the time came of Eliezer ben Dinai and Tchina ben Prisha Yanikra, that's what it was called. Chazru likroto, he used to call him Ben Aratzchan. Here it says Eliezer ben Dinai was a rotzeach mefursam. He was a famous murderer, right? So then he changed his name to Tchina ben Prisha, right? In order to to change his identity, right? In order not to know that he's a. So then they used to come and they used to say, once they found out who he was again, they used to call him Ben Aratzchan. Okay? Once there were people that had so much adultery, so they stopped giving the waters of the Sotah. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was one that stopped it. Right? Which means he said, there's too many people, I don't want to come and we're not going to continue doing all. Basically, there was what? Every single day they're going to have a Sotah. They didn't want, so therefore they stopped it. They stopped it. Mishemet Yosef ben Yoezer, ish Seredav, Yosef ben Yehuda, ish Yerushalayim, Yosef ben Yochanan. Yeah, Yosef ben Yochanan, Yerushalayim. That's what we just had in Pirkei Avot. Batru Eshkolot. They don't have any more the Eshkolot, which means the Yodim, the Torah. Chachamim uflagim. Shneimar, en Eshkol leechol bikura ivta nafshi. Right? So then he says, Yochanan ben Kohen Gadol levid hodayat maaser. Right? Afu bitel amorim v'tenofkivin. So Yochanan ben Kohen Gadol, he took away the hodayat maaser, which is vidui masrot. He took it away. Okay, the Gemara is going to explain this. And he also was mevatel the meorerim and the nokfin. The Gemara is going to explain this. Right? Ad yamav hayapatish makeh b'Yerushalayim. Until that day, in his days, he used to come and he used to hit with the hammers in Yerushalayim. Uviyamav and tzarich l'shol adamai. During his days, nobody had to actually ask for demai. Right? Because he took in with anybody that used to take the demai was obligated to take off maaser. So let's see the Gemara. We learned in the Braita. How do we know that if they did the agla rufa and after they found the murderer, that it doesn't exempt him? But the pasuk says mefurash that the land will not be atoned unless it's going to be with the blood of the one that spilled the blood. Meaning the one that spilled the blood, his blood has to be spilled. And then it's going to be atoned. Okay? Okay. One one says, one of them says, I saw the oreg, yeah, which means that I saw the one that's killed, right? And one says that I didn't see the one that killed. So he comes and he says, the reason why is he comes and he says, right like this, he says, the reason why is he says was the Rofim the Eglah, he says because it's going against him. If nobody's going against him, one witness is going to be believed. How do we know that? We don't know who killed him, who hit him. But if you know who hit him, even if the person is going to be at the end of the world, doesn't matter. They wouldn't do the glarufa. So it's only mashma from the Gemara only because we don't know who did it. But even if there was one ed who did it, we don't do the glarufa. Rabbi Kiva says, how do we know that if Sanhedrin saw somebody kill, but they don't know the guy? Meaning they don't know the Rotzeach. Right? So that means they saw somebody kill him and they don't know who he was. Meaning they come, they see him. And then he runs away, but he was disguised, whatever it is. So therefore it says, but they did see. Right? So that's very, very important. So now that you say one witness is going to be believed, so how could the other one come and go against it? Meaning that when you have one witness saying that he knows who's the murderer, then the other witness is not going to be believed against him. Ula says, whenever the Torah believes one witness, it's like two witnesses. We learned this in Sotah. Then so the words of one is not going to go against two. So says the Gemara, Ula is going to answer you, Tani lo yurfin, they wouldn't come and do the Eglarufa. You're right, they wouldn't do it once they have one witness saying that he knows who it was. Rabbi argues, he said, no, yurfin, they wish to do it. So one second, according to Rabbi, you have the question of Ula. So he said, La Kashya, it's not a question. It all depends whether they came at one time or one after another. Right? That means basically, what is the Mishnah talking about? The two witnesses are going against each other, one meaning in the same time. If they go against each other at the same time, so then that's it. But if it's one after another, then that means the one is going to be believed, and that's it. But if it's at the same time, so then they cancel out. Today we learned to the Mishnah. One witness comes and he says that I saw the person killing, and two witnesses say I didn't see the killing. Right? So what happens? They used to do the glarufa. But if it was one against one, they wouldn't do it. So it's a question against the Mechia. So says the Gemara, and according to your reasoning, let's see the Seifa. Two witnesses come and they say that we saw him, and one witness says that he didn't see him. They wouldn't do a glarufa. But if it's one against one, they would do it. So therefore, our entire Mishnah is what? Is kula b'psulei dut. We're talking about people which normally they're not allowed to testify, like Rav Nechemia. That he says, right? We go after Rov Deot. Which means that even two women would be able to come, right? Just like it would be two men, right, going against one person. So the Mishnah is actually teaching us if you have Echad that says that he saw the Rotzeach and two witnesses coming and say they didn't see it, they would do the Eglarufa. Even if the Eder Rishon was kasher and the other two are going to be pasul. Okay, some people say, if one witness comes kasher at the beginning, even if you have 100 women coming afterwards, it's like one. My skin on here, what are we dealing with? The woman came first. Right? This is the way you're going to explain the words of Nechemia. Nehemiah says, anytime that the Torah believed one witness, we go after the majority of the people. And therefore they made two women with one woman, just like two men with one man. But two women with one man, it's like half-half. Which means that here, even a woman would be believed. Because once the Torah believes one witness, even a woman is going to come and she's going to be believed in everything that they're saying. So he says, why do I need two different memro to teach you psule edut to do with testifying? So he says, I would have thought to say, when do we say that we go after rov deot lechumra, but not lekula? We don't go after rov deot. Kamashmanan comes teach you that even lekula, we go after the majority of the people. Okay? Means here, even if it's going to be lenient, we're also going to go after the majority of the people, meaning the amount of people that are coming. Okay, then we said that the ones who were too many murderers, they stopped at glarufa. It's only going to be on the safek. But once people started killing people right in revealed areas, so then there was no glarufa. Meaning people would come and they would kill openly. They would kill just like that. So now it's not in hiding anymore. So therefore there was no glarufa anymore. Remember that when a man is clean, it checks his wife. But which means that he comes and he had relations with a woman which was prohibited to him. Meaning if the husband's fooling around with other married women, now his wife comes and she fools around and he makes it into a sotah. She comes and she's going to drink. Nothing happens to her. Nothing happens to her. Because he also fooled around.
So sure.
And it says, Lo efkoda benotechem ki tiznena. Right, what does that mean? We're actually learning that there is my ve'omer. What does it mean ve'omer? He says, V'chita, if you're going to say, avon didei in tebaneud vanatello, that means maybe it's going to stop his wife from getting checked. What about his son and daughters? It's not going to tashema lo efkod ben al benotechem tiznena, which means even znuta banot or a kalot is going to cause and stop that the wife should be checked. Meaning, if the daughter-in-laws or a person's own daughters are also fooling around, and now he takes his wife to check his wife, it's not going to check his wife. Because of his daughters or his daughter-in-laws. Yeah, powerful stuff, yeah?
This is why the woman fooling around and they stopped doing the bitter work.
Yes.
Because you should be afraid.
100%. Now, if you're going to tell me avon eshet ish in avon de pnuya lo, maybe it's only an eshet ish, a married woman. What happens if she was a pnuya? She was not married, and now she's fooling around. Tashema ki em mazonot iparedu v'im kedeshut yizabechu, which means zonot is mashma even when they're pnuyot, right? So because the baal is noef in pnuya, and that means even if he went, we're not talking about that the husband went with a married woman. Even if the husband went with a not married woman, she's called a zonah, and therefore it's not going to check his wife. Okay? Mai ve'am lo yavin yelavet. He says, Amar Rabbi Lazar, Amar lahem Navi Yisrael, atem makpidim al atzmechem, hamayim bodkin neshotechem. If you're going to be makpid on yourselves, the water is going to check your wives. But if not, en hamayim bodkin neshotechem. The water is not going to check your wives. Yishirabu ba'alei hana'ah. So once there were people that they were always running after their desires, nitavtu adinim. Right? Why? Because basically they didn't look properly into the din. And then they went and they started. Why? Because basically what happened was that they didn't come and start looking in the din very properly. So therefore they says ve'en noach ba'olam, and therefore HaKadosh Baruch Hu was not noach ba'olam anymore. Right? So basically he wasn't because he saw that everything was being done not properly. Okay. Mishrabu roe parim badin. Once there were people, they were coming, they were doing not justice in judgments. Batel lo tagru mipnei shepasak lo takiru. Right? Uparku ol shamayim. They took off ol shamayim v'natnu alehem ol basar v'dam. So therefore they went and they put on themselves the ol basar v'dam. Ol basar v'dam means going to the account of the goyim, of secular courts. Meaning they started going to secular courts because if they were showing faces to other people and they weren't doing it properly, right? Bedin. So therefore it had to be taken to secular courts. Mishrabu lochashe lechishot badin. Once they started coming and the Orchei Dinim used to come and they used to start, telling secrets to the Dayanim or whatever it is, there's Rabba Charon Af B'Yisrael. There's a lot of anger and wrath against Israel. Nisalka Shekhinah, and the Shekhinah was taken away from them. Mishum Shneimah says in the Pasuk, בקרב אלוהים ישפוט. That means אלוקים ניצב בעדת אל בקרב אלוהים ישפוט, which means HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to put Shekhinah when בקרב אלוקים ישפוט, when it's going to be done בצדק, when it's going to be done with righteousness. Mishirabu, once there's a lot of people that they're going after their own pleasures. There's a lot of people that used to come and used to praise the Reshaim. So then there was a lot of bad things happening in the world, which means that he's a tzaddik. Why is he tzaddik? Because he was, doing all these good things. Mishirabu Moshke Arok, Rabu Yirim. And there were people that used to come and they used to here it says Marichin Arok. I don't know. They used to take a look. The phlegm was when a person used to come and take out his phlegm, it was a siman of ga'ava, of haughtiness. So he says, there was much fewer students. Right? And the Torah, they had to come back to the people that were learning it. So then the girls used to get married to these Yirim, because they used to come and they used to see them as these women were coming after chitzoniyut only. They weren't going after the insides, but only after the outsides. So says the Gemara, any is it so? More says, this one that he's haughty, he's not even going to be accepted on his own family. Even in his own house, right? Remember, nevat beto, right, is the wife. Ishto is nevat beto. Here it says nevat bait. Even within his house, he's not going to be accepted. Right? So answers the Gemara, at the beginning, the women, they jump on him to get married to him. Lesov at the end, at the end, they can't stand them. Meaning even somebody that's haughty, it could be that he'll get married very quick because the women, they like it, show off, he's a this. But then afterwards, they can't stand him. At the beginning, they love him. And afterwards, they can't stand him. Once the people that are coming and putting schora and everything in order they should come and Rabba Shocha, there was a lot of briberies. And then there was no good anymore. Once there was a lot of people that they were coming to kabel the tova that they did, everyone would do whatever he wanted. They used to come and bring down the people. And then Malchut Israel kept on going off. When there were people that were stingy, and they were gazlanim, there were people that they were coming and they didn't have any mercy on the poor people. And then they wouldn't loan money as well. And then they're going against the Torah because they weren't giving tzedakah and they weren't lending out money. Once there were these women that they were coming and they were sticking out their necks and doing things with their eyes, there was a lot of ma'im marim, right? But they stopped giving them to drink. Right? Here it says because this is the sin that they used to do. They used to go very nicely. They used to walk in order that the men should start looking at them. Right? And they used to go with their necks all stretched out. That means the women, they were showing their bodies. They were trying to, so that way men would look at them. So therefore there was a lot of ma'im marim because obviously they're becoming sotas. But he says, but they stopped giving them to drink, so it was a problem. Once people used to come and used to receive so many presents, so then they used to die early because it says a pasuk. So there were a lot of machlokot. And then the Torah became like two different Torot because they were learning Torah, but they weren't doing proper shimush. Once they were accepting too much tzedakah from the goyim, so then Israel was l'mala v'hem lemata, right? Which means that they went backwards. So here it says, as the Gemara says, that you're not allowed to accept tzedakah from the goyim because then you're being marbed there's zichuyot. Okay. Then it says over here, Mishemet Yosef ben Yoezer, when Yosef ben Yoezer came and he used to Yosef ben Yerushalayim, so then Batel Ashkelot. What is Ashkelot? It says Shmuel leish shekol bo. That's Eshkolot. Eshkol bo. Ish, Esh is Ish, shekol bo. What does that mean? Everything is in him. He's got a lot of Torah. Yochanan Kohen Gadol video dayat maaser. My time, what's the reason? Why didn't he do now bitul vidui masor? He used to come, he used to do vidui. They would never bring it when it's proper. The Torah says you have to give it to the Maaser Rishon, to the Levim. But we used to come and we used to give it to the Kohanim. Right? And then we used to do vidui on the Shar Masrot. We'll continue with Hashem tomorrow.